And I think that was very much needed. So thank you, Dominic, because what doesn't get measured doesn't get done, right?
Yeah.
So that was a very important piece that I think you bring to the table here. So thank you for that. John, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on the tools that Dominic was talking about, because I know Section 508.gov has been a terrific resource over the years. Is that being updated for the refresh?
Yes, very definitely. But in before getting into the actual tools, it's a transition to. First of all, I mean, 508 is a law. Yeah. Its accessibility is what we're trying to do, and there's no. And Dominic just alluded to this. Is accessibility has been a stovepipe world, talk to each other, and very few else. And that's not, and so we can try to drive accessibility, but unless we're doing it in partnership with, think of the just on the IT ecosystem, accessibility is part of design. So we need to be far more talking with the UX designers under the, on this construct of universal design. We need to be, much more in partnership with those who actually develop and build. And so that's part of our so everything we do, we provide technical assistance, along with in concert with Bruce and the Access Board. We provide tools, training, information, policy. The website is the portal for everything. That's it's written into the OMB charge. That's why Section 508.gov will exist. But we're see, you look at accessibility. On one hand, as Debbie pointed out very clearly, is accessibility is a part of it's a civil rights issue, it's an EEO issue, it's a human resources issue for the workforce. In terms of providing information to the American public, it's an information dissemination issue, and so we have to work in both spheres there. So to assist on the transition. Robert's going to talk about a lot of the actual transition guidance material. We've been updating 508 program or accessibility program management guidance, starting with the playbook, et cetera, to infuse the changes of the new standard into that. And so part of Section 508.gov under the transition toolkit, that's where you'll find all the material that's been reworked to align to the new standard. There's still plenty more that we have to rework and combine as part of our review of the whole website. So yes, as you said, our job is, we can't train the entire federal workforce. Our job is to train the accessibility program managers and agencies, who in then turn train their own agencies. That includes our own GSA. So what are we providing though? To get some metrics on things. First of all, in terms of defining accessibility requirements, we had in the past the Bi-Accessible Wizard. And that's being recast as an accessibility requirements tool, intentional on the name design to refresh that. And the order, and it's still a decision tree logic to go through, okay, these are the requirements that are going to go into this, whether I'm going to procure or I'm going to build it, is almost, it should be agnostic to that, although it does give deference to procurement language. And so we worked with the ACOP and through Robert's leadership here to make sure that the transition guidance material that's being built and this tool kind of follow the same logic. You should get to the same place if you go through using some manual guidance material or uses our tool. So that tool will be deployed in the next matter of weeks now. And then so that will just help you automate, say, I'm buying hardware, software, electronic content, support documentation, and boom, here's the requirements to go. And along with that, some of the pieces that Robert will talk about is, okay, you don't just define the standard, you have to tell people what to do with it. And how do you put it into the contractor? How do you have that relationship with the potential vendors? What other terms and conditions should you put into when it's a procurement, should you put into there? And so that's the synchronization, the materials you'll find in the transition toolkit and the tool that we're building. The second piece that Dominic mentioned is how do we understand our actual success rate? Have we actually increased the number of procurements that have the right accessibility requirements spelled out in them? And so we've built the solicitation review tool, which we're building, which goes out and uses 19 different algorithms. It's an AI system to go out and just say, predict the likelihood that this procurement has the right requirements in there. But 19 different factors go into that. And so what it does is it goes out and scans FedBizOps daily and looks at all the government-wide procurements out there and can give you a list of, okay, this is your agency, here's all your procurements you have. It's a resource matter. You can't look at all of them. But it gives you a targeting list to say, okay, these are the ones that we think should have requirements and most likely don't. And then it's built into this, so this is part of you as a community to come in and to start using this, and then assess, did it get it right, did it get it wrong, and that will continue to build the intelligence of this thing so it starts getting better and better a predictive tool. Whereas in the past, we paid a contractor to do random sampling, doing manual review at a much deeper level, but only a handful of procurements. This way, we do less, but we do for much more. So that piece out there, I think, will be very helpful. And so part of our outreach effort is to work with you. How do you build that into your business process? So how does that become, and it actually will help the things that you're graded on in terms of the biannual reporting to OMB of how many solicitations did you look at, how compliant are they, et cetera. So ART, the SRT. The other one that we've had out there for a year now is this Pulse Accessibility Module. PulseCO.gov measures for the federal web portfolio, it measures different characteristics. Which ones are HTTPS compliant, which ones use to gap
John,
Google
is
Gap
that,
Analytics.
is that pulse.cio.gov?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then and that's on the public side. We built an accessibility module, and we went through with a lot of people in this community to look at, to the extent that we all know, automated tools can't fully assess accessibility, but they're a good start and they're good help. And so right now, it's out there for you to use as a federal agency. It is not on the public side because of the feedback we got from this community and the concern that it might draw attention that will have you focused on litigation rather than fixing problems. But we want you to help fix the problems. And this just scans, right now it just scans for three elements that we have a high degree of confidence it's getting right in terms of false positives, false negatives. Okay. We had built into that the ability to scan for more of the WCAG requirements, and the feedback was don't do that until WCAG is the law, so we have that ready, and we will start to turn that stuff back on. The decision on getting that available to that will be available to federal agencies. And right now it's on a place where you can access it if you let us know that you want to access it and start building that into your site. Under Dominic's leadership, we're building out a digital dashboard, which will be for federal consumption only. It'll be behind Max for now. And it will measure 9 to 12 different characteristics of largely your web portfolio, your websites, We also manage the .gov domains, so everything under those domain names will be managed, and all the Pulse accessibility stuff will be migrating to there, so you can see this in concert of other metrics that you're using. So you start looking at your whole portfolio, from the CPIC side and the IT dashboard, also what Dominic built at OMB a few years ago. That's that dimension to it. This digital dashboard will complement that with a lot of other different metrics, and an accessibility piece will pull in the Pulse Accessible. So you can look at your procurement, you can help write your procurements, you can look at your rate of procurements to the extent that they actually contain their requirements, and then once in development, you can look at the your website and look at the accessibility. It's an error checker of accessibilities. And this is something we can give to you. It's, yes, there are commercial products out there that do far more. But this is a piece that we can do with our appropriated dollars to support agencies using open source tools. Okay, so you can do that. Okay, so those are the three big pieces we have going out here that will be available through the digital dashboard largely as we go forward with that. Okay, secondly is the whole training portfolio, the piece that Helen has been developing here and updating all the training. So we've updated the micro purchasing course. We've updating the procurement course. We're updating a 508 basics course. We've got one out there that's out there already. For executive, for an executive audience, what are you going to do there? And going into this year, we'll be working with Robert and Edward to build out a training course around the playbook, which is around program maturity. So we're looking at accessibility program maturity. We're looking at the procurement stream. We're looking at the developer. We're looking at fusing those things together, building the training in concert with the webinar series that the Access Board does to put out this so that we have what makes sense. And based on the metrics we're getting, where is the need, and therefore there we apply the training. And then rebolstering and redesigning Section 508 to it still will always be that portal for all this information comes in here, but we're realizing there's other sources of accessibility information and how we better fuse that. There's a lot around digital government. Because, the other piece of this is we're trying, look, accessibility is one piece of digital government. There's other pieces there that we're trying to build together. And it's just one dimension you want to look at things here. So we're putting these tools out, we're putting the training, adjusting the actual training and event schedule to work on these things. Because post-January, we're no longer in transition. We are transitioned.
That's a great point.
It's a new way of living.
Actually, John, that seems like such a comprehensive set of resources for federal agencies and the public, because you've looked at the people factor with the training, you've looked at the process with the programmatic implementation, and you've looked at the technology by giving the tools, and you've looked at procurement. So very comprehensive view. I'd like to get a show of hands of the audience. How many of you are from federal agencies? So about 70–75% of the folks in the room are from federal agencies. And how many of you are system integrators? So just a couple. Yeah, okay, yeah. Great.
I just forgot one thing that Debbie led the effort on, is we also have a revision of what you should have as an agency policy. And Debbie led the team to develop that piece, and that is available on section508.gov. It's a good resource.
Can I just
Thank you, John.
Preeti, can I touch on one of these tools that I'm particularly excited about, which is the solicitation review tool? So we try to do things government-wide. We have a small, very small team. And anytime we have the opportunity to be kind of a force multiplier, to look for technologies, and we talk about innovation and emerging technologies, this tool, and when I talk about all the things we're doing across the board, this is absolutely the most innovative, cutting-edge thing we are doing, probably within OGP and maybe GSA-wide. We are literally using artificial intelligence to read through every solicitation that comes through Fed BizOps. Whereas just last year, we had a small team of people at a higher cost reading a very small sample of everything going through. So we've learned from what we've done, and we're literally now able to put a machine in to read with a high level of accuracy every solicitation to make sure that the right language is in there. This is innovation. This is what we're trying to bring to the community, and the implications on the broader acquisition space. We're shopping this thing around to Federal Acquisition Services and other acquisition shops to say, here's some of the things you should be looking at, the technologies you can look at. The use case, the initial use case, and the innovation driver here was accessibility. So I just want to put that out there. The amazing things this team is doing, really pushing the edges on innovation with such a small team, I've been really proud of.
That's fantastic. I mean, and AI, as we all know, is cutting edge absolutely in terms of innovation. There's a lot going on. And so you are using it to look at every single RFP out there on FedBizOps and make sure the 508 procurement language is what you want it to be.
And right now, the indications are not many.
Oh, boy.
We have a lot of work to do.
I was going to ask, so what? Thank you, John, for that.